We saw a mega celebrity peppered through the allegations in that complaint. And then in one text message, Taylor. Well, it could be a mistake. It could mean that somebody is getting a stern talking to today, or that somebody is actually getting fired for missing such a critical thing.
What was Justin's strategy here with this major lawsuit?
Justin's lawsuit reads less like a legal complaint and a legal document which requires a short and plain statement of the claim. This is more like a novel. It is a narrative of his experience on the set of It Ends With Us and his experience during the publicity tour. It is much more in-depth than you usually see a legal complaint. Justin's narrative, it's enough for this case to move forward and to be pursued in a court of law. But what it really strikes are issues relating to Blake Lively's credibility. And at the end of the day, all of these cases are going to come down to credibility and what a jury ultimately decides if the case goes to trial. Baldoni's narrative in the complaint will hold up in the initial stages of litigation. It fulfills all of the requirements for this case to go full speed ahead towards trial. But everything that's in that document is really going to be more relevant to his defense than to his claims. It's really more his story than the specific allegations that relate to what he's seeking for damages.
What was Justin's strategy here with this major lawsuit?
Justin's strategy seems to be to get his side of the story into the public sphere. This document didn't read like a legal document asserting claims. It read like a novel. It really went deeply into his experience on the set of It Ends With Us and the PR campaign afterwards. Not only did it talk about the allegations, it talked about how he felt during different times of the production. That's unique, and it tells me that Justin is really trying to paint a picture in the public eye, even if it might not be successful in the courtroom.
From a legal perspective, do you see any issues with his complaint?
There's a couple of major issues with his complaint from the legal perspective. Some of the business torts that he's asserting, interference with contracts and the like, what happened on that set, according to his own narrative, is not necessarily legally actionable. Demanding castmates, power struggles behind the scene, PR campaigns that are negative for somebody or positive for another. None of that's illegal. So many of those claims may have trouble fulfilling the legal standards that apply.
We saw Taylor Swift's name pop up in a text once, but the rest seemingly redacted. What do you think happened there?
Mega celebrity in the allegations, Taylor popping up once in the body of a text message in the complaint. That could be a mistake. It could simply be somebody who did not catch that Taylor was still in that document and forgot to redact it. Heads could be rolling right now for whomever was responsible for that last review. Or it could be accidental on purpose, meaning that it was intentionally left in the body of that text message. Now, the defense attorneys could argue that it's relevant to the case. And also, they can argue all it says is Taylor. It doesn't identify anybody else. And that the allegations themselves do not say her name explicitly. Either way, the defense can, quote unquote, get away with it. Taylor appearing one time in that document could merely be a mistake. Something somebody missed during the course of the final review of that document before it was filed. Or it could be intentional. Keep in mind, Taylor, that's a big name to overlook. So there could be another reason to include it. And the defense can get away with it by arguing that it's relevant to the case or that all it says is Taylor. The public is going to make an assumption about who that person is. In any case, the defense is not going to get in any legal trouble for including it in that text message.
Lively's team issued a statement last night in response to Baldoni's suit, claiming he was using the tactic DARVO. Break down what that stands for and means.
DARVO is a manipulation tactic. It's a legal term that's used to describe a scenario where somebody who is actually the bad actor flips the script and becomes the victim. DARVO stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim offender. What does that mean? It means that somebody who is a bad actor tries to flip the script and look like they are the victim. It's a strategy that's sometimes used in the legal world, and it's also often used in the PR world.
There are interviews of Justin saying that Blake is a creative force, and everything she touches, she makes better. Was this just him being cordial and polite for the sake of the movie, and could it hurt him in the end if this is brought to trial, since it's in stark contrast to what was written in his lawsuit?
This is where his claims are going to have a major problem. Some of what he's alleging is that he was the one who was to be the director, producer of the movie, that he was responsible for decisions on set. But he admits in his own allegations that he did acquiesce a certain degree of control to Blake Lively, that he did give her the green light to go forward with making some decisions or giving recommendations or even rewriting parts of the script. When you put that into the legal claims relating to the business and contractual elements of this lawsuit, it's going to be very, very negative for Baldoni in proving his case.
After reading this entire complaint and reviewing the others like Blake's, who do you think is coming out on top of this one?
These two cases have very different legal theories. First, it's important to note, PR smear campaigns are not de facto illegal. They're not even legally actionable in most circumstances. That being said, there's circumstances where it can go too far. That's Blake's allegations. She says she experienced sexual harassment on the set of It Ends With Us and that she complained about that harassment. We know there was a memo that was created relating to conditions that needed to be met on set. That would be her complaint. That complaint serves as the basis for what's called a retaliation claim. So her allegation is the PR smear campaign, it wasn't just a run-of-the-mill Hollywood strategy to promote one person over another. It was in response to her allegations of sexual harassment. That's what makes it legally actionable in her complaint. Baldoni has some other challenges in proving his case because, again, the PR smear campaign itself, if it was enacted against him, is not illegal. So for him, his narrative and what's set forth in this complaint, in my view, is going to be way more relevant to his defense against Blake Lively. And in that sense, it is really, really compelling because some of the messages, the texts, the voice memos, the emails tend to undercut her side of the story and actually can paint her as not being truthful or bending the truth to fit her allegations. So while his lawsuit maybe doesn't have teeth from a legal perspective, his defense is certainly something that we could see unfolding in the courtroom in a very intense manner.
Do you think the lawsuits have the potential of actually going to trial?
Lawsuits end in three different ways. They settle. Is there a settlement possible here? You never know, but it doesn't look like that's the course right now. There's also what's called dispositive motions, meaning that somewhere along the way in litigation, a judge throws out the case. These are the types of claims that come down to credibility, and it comes down to what the evidence actually shows and does it fit into those legal elements. They do not generally resolve on dispositive motions. What's the last way? Trial. And this trial would be huge if these cases ever get that far. Keep in mind, you've got Blake Lively's complaint, Blake Lively's action. You've got Justin Baldoni's action against Blake Lively and others. Then you have his libel complaint against the New York Times. There's so many moving parts in this case. That's just what we know right now. And we're going to see the defenses start to unfold as these cases work their way through the courts.
How big could this trial be? Bigger than Gwyneth Paltrow's?
This case could be 10 times bigger than the Gwyneth Paltrow trial, which riveted the entire country. Everybody had eyes on that. The reason being, this is directly involving the entertainment industry. We're not just talking about two individuals in a dispute and witnesses that may have seen what occurred. We're talking about subpoenas, depositions, discovery, text messages, emails, not just from the players and the people in the caption of these complaints, but from other individuals who may have been involved. You could see deposition notices to the talent agencies, managers, agents, and other celebrities who may have had communications with Blake or Justin about It Ends With Us, the production, and the PR campaigns that followed. So we could see a lot of really famous people taking the stand if this case were to go to trial.
How hard would it be to prove civil extortion, defamation, and invasion of privacy?
Baldoni has a couple of problems with his complaint that I expect to see immediate motion practice, and that relates to jurisdiction. Two of the claims that he asserts in a New York federal court actually are not causes of action or legal theories that you can pursue under New York law. He raises them under California law. That's false light as well as civil extortion. So those two, there's going to be an immediate challenge as to whether or not this court can even hear those claims. They're also very, very difficult claims to prove in general. First of all, defamation, there has to be what's called actual malice. And as set forth in Baldoni's complaint, there's a litigation privilege, meaning what Blake Lively put in her complaint, what she wrote about Baldoni in that legal document, cannot be the basis for defamation or libel. It has to be something else. So that's going to be a challenge. And as far as the civil extortion, that's a very, very high bar. There has to be something more than bringing the lawsuit and saying that there's damages attached to it and financial damages. Otherwise, we're going to move forward with this case. It has to be more. Both very difficult claims. But I expect those jurisdictional challenges to take place almost immediately. And whether or not they'll be successful, there's a high probability we could see some of these claims moving to different courthouses. The first step in any lawsuit is to file a complaint in a court. Right now, there are several active complaints that trigger the beginning of several different lawsuits. There's Blake Lively against Justin Baldoni. There's Justin Baldoni against Blake Lively. And there's Justin Baldoni against the New York Times. All three of those lawsuits are separate as of now, but there's a world where we could see some of them being consolidated so that they're actually tried as one trial and actually go through the court system as one case. It's likely that both Baldoni's lawyers and Blake Lively's lawyers are going to challenge jurisdiction of the lawsuits that are currently filed. They're likely to be consolidated, meaning a judge is going to hear them together. And they may be removed from New York federal court to a California federal court. These are all the immediate legal challenges that are inevitable and likely to happen in the coming days.